Hi, folks. I'm Jennifer Schlueter, Dean of Graduate Studies at the Columbus College of Art and Design, a nonprofit art and design college that has been a creative force within Central Ohio for more than 140 years. I want to welcome you to today's event. We are here because now is a pivotal time in retail, and we believe there are none better set than the creative and resourceful minds at CCAD to examine and to solve the many challenges in this evolving field. As part of that work, we've launched a 9-part online lecture series, CCAD Knows Retail, featuring industry leaders who will share their insight about the retail landscape and what is on the horizon. Before we jump into today's talk and I introduce our speaker, I just want to share a few housekeeping notes. We're recording today's talk so that we can share it on our website for those who weren't able to join us. The event is in a webinar format, as you can see, so your lines are muted and your videos are off. It's just us that can be seen and heard. We'll have time to answer your questions at the end, so please feel free to use the Q&A function throughout the discussion to submit your questions. You are also welcome to use the chat throughout to share any reactions or comments. And now I am excited to introduce today's speaker. Jen Peterson has led a prolific career in branding, marketing, and merchandising. She spent 16 years at L Brands with roles with Lane Bryant, Bath & Body Works, Pink, and ultimately as the VP brand and general manager for C.O. Bigelow. After that, she served as the vice president, product and marketing for Jewel, a fashion handbag and accessory startup in the direct sales area, while also continuing to own and operate JCP Brand Consulting, the business she founded in 2012. She joined Steiner Associates in 2015 to oversee the entire Easton property in the chief executive role. And there, she is responsible for creating an environment that enhances the customer experience, drives tenant sales, and positions Easton for continued growth. Jen also leads the Easton Community Foundation's work, which gives back to the community through charitable gifts, partnerships, event support, and volunteerism. Please join me in welcoming Jen Peterson.
Thank you so much, Jen, and good afternoon, everyone. I am honored to be here and to be one of the speakers for this retail series. I think this new Master's in Professional Studies in Retail Design is incredibly innovative and appropriate for CCAD and for Columbus. So great that I think there's a lot of prospective students on the line today. Hopefully you'll be tantalized by some of what is shared. I'll be really coming from the Easton retail experience, and I'll get into a little bit more about myself in Easton for those that may not know much about Easton Town Center. But I do want to reiterate what Jen said, to definitely put comments and questions in the chat or in the Q&A, so we can cover those at the end. And I appreciate Marla, who's going to drive the presentation. I think we can go to the next slide. So just a little background. Yes, that is me in the middle top of the slide. I was 3 or 4 years old and already was showing an interest in fashion and dressing up and retail and shopping. I think it was probably a part of my legacy to work at Easton, although I spent 10 years in advertising, branding, marketing, and then 16 with L Brands and a couple years with a fashion handbag accessory company. I think all of those experiences definitely set me up for this position, kind of pulling in so many different skill sets and experiences that have really helped me achieve in this role, which I've been in since 2015, middle of the year, so coming up on my 6th year here. And then a little bit about Easton. So Easton is an open air mixed use town center in Columbus, Ohio. It opened in 1999, so we'll soon be 22. I think, you know, what I know about Easton from the beginning, having loved it as a consumer and now working here, it's never stagnant. It's never the same, constantly evolving. We did a major renovation on our station building, which is the one interior section of the property. The picture in the lower right kind of shows from building in 1998 to what that transformation looked like. We also brought on a new district in 2019 at the end of the year, a $500 million expansion. That is really cooking now, finally. I think many of those brands that opened right before the pandemic, had a really hard time and struggled. But we're really seeing our traffic get back to almost 100% today, which I'm very grateful for. And so are all the brands at Easton, and especially those new ones. What else here? I think that's probably all. Definitely, again, put questions if you have them in the chat. We can move on to looking at the trends that were accelerated during this pandemic, and specifically around how to deliver experience. I think many changes were happening in retail in the category prior to the pandemic, and then fast forward to March of 2020, and all of those things really just took hold at an even greater level. We can go to the next slide. So for Easton and for our team here, really, safety has always been a huge priority, but became the #1 priority. As we were able to do our safe restart, once the governor announced that would be happening, we really had to work around the clock to invent, frankly, all of the processes and protocols that we would be following to welcome guests back, whether that is related to mask wearing, sanitizing, all the hand sanitizing stations, all the communications that were going out to our internal team, to our tenant partners, our community partners, to the community overall. Obviously, the signage and communication on property was a huge aspect. And, one of the things we really talked about was we didn't want Easton, which is known to be somewhere to escape the everyday, to spark joy, to suddenly feel punitive or sterile or almost like a medical environment. We didn't want that. So we wanted to be really clear on what was important from a safety standpoint, but also be able to create an atmosphere that gave, that wonderful experience that folks have come to know and love. And, we had a brainstorm, and the idea to include our Easton Man superheroes. So we've had our own superhero, Easton Man, gosh, for over 10 years. And we really leveraged him as a communicator of the message, to just wear it, to be a hero, to wear a mask, to be on property and actually handing out masks and talking to guests and meeting them where they were, whether that was coming still kind of from a fearful point of view, or, more comfortable, maybe didn't want to wear a mask, but it was a requirement here even before it was a state mandate. And we really feel like that was a successful strategy. The other thing we did, so you can see that bubblegum machine looking device, that's actually a product that we bought from Aunt Flo, and has masks in it. So kids could purchase their own mask, almost like they were purchasing a bubblegum, piece of bubblegum or a piece of candy. And that has really served as a great point of engagement through this whole time frame. But focusing on safety was our #1 priority, and still really is. Let's go to the next slide. Supporting our tenant partners, of course, is what we do all day, every day. It's our why. This became super critical during the shutdown because we still had 25 restaurants that were operating. So providing them with signage to say we're open. So they were doing carry out and curbside, promotion and advertising, digital and print, promotion all over the property that these brands were still operating. And then once we were reopened, we created curbside pickup area stations that were communal. And they weren't just for restaurants anymore. They were also supporting retail, because many retailers were either only doing that at the beginning, or they knew that a lot of their customers were still not ready to come into the store. And so this gave them an easy way to deliver the goods. And those stations have flexed from 35 to almost 50 during holiday, and I think we're at about 28 now. But that has been a really key component of one, meeting the guests where they are, removing friction. So it didn't matter if they wanted to buy that online, they could still come to Easton and pick it up. And to really show our tenants how much we're supporting them, because we have not only put the signage, the flags, and we've covered up the meters to not allow parking in those locations so there can be turnover. That's taking away from the dollars going to our community foundation, which we get the dollars through our meters and from parking tickets. And yet we knew this was and still is a very important component to supporting our tenants. And this was happening largely with restaurants before the pandemic. It was starting to happen a bit with retail, but pretty much everyone is doing it now. So we'll continue to look for innovative solutions to make this even easier. Next slide, Marla. Expanded seating. So for guests who wanted to come to Easton and maybe just walk around or to pick up food and enjoy that somewhere safe outside, cup of coffee, we purchased a lot more outdoor seating that we've placed in our communal areas around the property. You can see the top right is our town square. The lower right is the yard, which is in our new expansion, and that area not only includes seating, but also really fun, colorful swings. And the other part of this is on the left, you can see Forbidden Root, which opened in November of 19. So they were one of those brands that, had to really fight to come back after, not having a lot of runway to really even launch. But their patio is a decent size, but we let them pop out. So you can see on the lower right, the seating that's adjacent to that planter. And we did that for every brand. You may have sat in a new location at North Star or Condado or Smith & Walensky or many of the other brands that 40 Deuce that, we allowed and were flexible to let them have additional seating. And a lot of that stayed up until like the first flurries. And we're already bringing back the outdoor seating now because we know there are some people who are still fearful to go inside and they want to enjoy our environment and the property, but they want to do it on their terms. So we've really embraced that, and we'll be looking to add some more communal seating areas even this year, in addition to what we did in 2020. Next slide. Unique services. I mean, this is an area that we're just tapping into that support customers and our merchants, but we really tried a lot of different things in 2020 and we'll continue to experiment. Some of those services include happy returns, making it super simple for someone to purchase something either online or in a store and do a return at a centralized area. We partnered with C-Bus Shop starting in the fall of 2020, and that's a local organization that does same-day delivery from retail and hopefully soon for liquor from restaurants. The kickoff of this relationship actually offered this service for free. So again, acknowledging that there were guests who weren't ready to come, but they still wanted to support Easton merchants. And this service allowed them to do so in a safe way, in a super convenient way. The charge for that has been $6 since the middle of January, but we're about to go into another free period. So that's been a great addition. The lower left of the photo area is a screenshot of Qmatic, which is a line queuing service. So we knew at holiday we would have more traffic. Certainly the opportunity to welcome more guests into our retail spaces, but still capacity limitations and also cold weather. So it was a convergence that could have been really painful, But we, as a landlord, offered for free to all of our tenants the ability to leverage this platform and to have their guests be able to not have to stand outside in the cold, but rather be given an alert when it was time for them to come and that they could safely enter the store. This is something that a lot of retailers actually had their own platforms. We learned as we started to roll this out. So we're looking at, how might this work in the future? Are there other seasons of the year beyond holiday where it could be valuable? As the vaccine rollout happens, I had my second today, hallelujah. Will some of those capacity restrictions start to ebb? We don't really know, but again, we felt like in the moment, at the critical time of holiday, when, their business is, critical to their, total year success, and having had a really tough start to the year, we knew that we were going to really have to support them. So we'll go ahead and move to the next slide. So safe events and activations. This is something that, we knew that Easton is beloved for all the events and animation here, but that was going to be a significant challenge in 2020. So some of the creative ways that we still delivered on that part of our promise. So the top right, you see an Easter bunny. So last year, in the middle of the shutdown, we offered a drive-by for the Easter bunny, where people could come in their cars, stay in their car, drive by and have the Easter bunny wave to them. This was something that we kind of pulled out at the last minute, and it was, it was amazing. It was so successful. We had over 600 cars show up, and this is where there were barely any cars on the road. Again, because they were in their vehicles, they were staying safe, rolled down their windows to wave to the Easter bunny. We saw parents tearing up, kids just laughing and having the best time with it. So grateful to have a little escape from home and to, in some way continue a favorite tradition. The right-hand side is our hoop yoga. That we built these hoops out of PVC pipe. They're 70 inches. And yoga has been part of Easton's events for many, many years. We knew in the beginning that it would be challenging to do that. But then we were inspired by some other communities that were creating circles of, particular groups that could gather. And we decided to build these ourselves. And so as quickly as we could get that done, we launched yoga in July. And then we ran that all the way through October. I know one of the last sessions I attended, it was getting a little frosty, but allowed folks to be outside, to wear a mask until they were safely, in their hoop, and then to, be able to remove the mask and do their practice safely. The lower left-hand photo is a shot of our Easton Sunset Series drive-in. So this was something that as soon as we came back, we knew we needed to create something very spectacular to give folks a safe way to put their toe in the water and come back to Easton. It was 11 days concept to market that we had the idea to do a drive-in movie theater. We knew that AMC wasn't going to reopen right away. In fact, they didn't end up opening until August. So there was going to be a gap there in movies and family activities. So we took a flyer and tried this, and it was incredible. From, gosh, like the 22nd of May all the way to mid-July, we had our movies running almost every night. I think people were coming, not even caring what movie was showing, because they just wanted something fun to do with their family. We heard from customers that, they could do something with grandma for the first time. We heard people had never left the house really, other than to, maybe get groceries, who were safely able to come and attend this event. Many people came multiple times. So we used a new parking lot to the north of our new expansion. And we created a safe environment, not only because you'd stay in your vehicle, but also that you had the space next to you, immediately adjacent, if you did want to sit outside in chairs, but that you wouldn't be infringing on your neighbor. And this was very well received as well. We heard folks wanting to do events here. Like, I wanted to have a wedding. Some folks wanted to hold birthday parties. And we were curious about that. And I'll get into a little bit more what we did with that feedback. But we did have a fundraiser that we did with Stonewall around the time of Pride. We also did a partnership with Breathe. That was an organization that came out of the protests that followed George Floyd's murder. They wanted to do something, and we came up with this idea to screen Just Mercy 3 times in one day, and have the proceeds from that go to Breathe, and have the organizers be able to give a presentation and kind of talk about what Breathe is and why they were formed and what their mission is all about. So the Sunset Series was a unique and safe activation that, you know, really would have only come from the pandemic conditions. Go ahead and jump to the next slide. Continuing on the event conversation. So Chalk the Block is an event we've done for the last 8 years. It involves local artists coming to Easton and creating masterpieces on our streets in the town square. We decided to bring these cubes into the mix this year so that we could really space out the artists, but still really conduct the event almost as if we had in the past. And I think that gave many artists the ability to get out and to do their thing in terms of creating art, but also a fun environment that customers and guests could observe from a safe distance and be able to enjoy. We'll jump to the next slide. Some of the other things that that we did this year was really just hype our lighting. We had over 2 million lights here between our buildings, trees, the holiday tree in the town square, our new expansion and putting decor for the holidays up at the yard. Really to create almost like a winter wonderland at Easton, where you could feel safe and walk around, but still enjoy the beauty of the season. That second shot from the left is our Skate Around the Town ice rink, which we ran from mid-February through mid-March. And that was really fun activity on our town square that we did every day from 4 to 8. There was a capacity limit of how many skaters could be on the ice, but really allowed groups and families to be able to be outside and active together. The group that we worked with to organize it did all the skate rental, the sanitizing, the waivers, so that everybody stayed safe. And that wasn't a huge drain on our team. And it was just a really nice animation. We wish we had done it a little sooner in January even. And the same with the 2 shots to the right. These are pictures of our Easton Igloos. These were kind of like in the spirit of the expanded seating from the summer months into fall. This was the winter version of that. So we ordered 4 towards the end of 20, and we were able to launch them in mid-February for Valentine's Day, 2021. And then we ordered 5 more because there was such an incredible response to these. And then we were able to bring some more to the current group that was using them, as well as to some new brands. And we think this will become a new tradition that is something that folks look forward to and come to Easton specifically for. There's other parts of the community that have had igloos as well. We tried to customize them to be more of the Easton experience, adding lights, heaters, decor elements, and also provided these free to our tenants. We provided all the decor as well as all the tables and chairs. So it was a real benefit to those brands that were able to leverage them, and they shared with us that absolutely they drove their sales. I mean, Forbidden Root, I think the first day they put them up on their website, they had over 300 calls for folks wanting to reserve them, and they were nearly 100% reserved for the entire time that they were up. I mean, literally, they're just coming down today. So it's just, you know, put on your thinking cap, think creatively, think innovatively. What can we do to help our customers, help our guests? We can go ahead to jump to the next slide. Getting outside. So I think all of us have been outside more than we've ever been, of course, enjoying sporting activities and walking and hiking and you know, whatever we could do safely and feel comfortable doing. I know our family has become, you know, hiking enthusiasts. We've all learned to play platform tennis. So it's been great. And, you know, Easton also kind of played in this arena, although we're an outdoor center. We also created a beautiful sunflower patch just to the east of the Hilton. There is an open lot there, and that will come back in 2021 as well, with some paths through it. So folks can get even more up close and personal with the beautiful sunflowers. We also created a nature walk across Easton Way. So it's part of the Easton Association property, where you could meander through this field of wildflowers and be able to enjoy nature. Both of these things are really meant to be bee friendly as well and attract pollinators. So the nature walk has bee boxes, bat boxes, bird boxes. Folks that live in the adjacent apartments can walk their pets. There's pet stations to be able to pick up any doggy doo that is left behind. And we know this was also something that was really appreciated, you know, during a time where, you know, maybe in this area there weren't a lot of places to get outside other than walking around the property. So these were kind of two new areas that we did that. And I see Chuck has asked a question: of the responses to pandemic conditions, what do you see Easton keeping post-pandemic? For example, the drive-in series that can continue even without a health crisis. I'll talk a little bit about that, Chuck, and also we know that AMC is open now, and so we definitely didn't want to bring back the drive-in movies to compete with them, but you know, we do have some drive-in ideas, and know that that could also be a venue for concerts and bringing live music back to the property. So we can chat more during the Q&A, but really good question. We can go to the next slide, Marla. Animation and sparking joy. So like I talked about on the safety side, that we never wanted Easton to feel sterile or medicinal. We also wanted to add extra layers of animation and give that customer experience that spark of joy. And we've been about that from day one, but really the pandemic showed us that that is even more important. So we have areas that have these beautiful floral installations. And if you look on our Instagram, I mean, it's crazy how many people are taking selfies and photos of their family in front of those areas. Our grand staircase in the station building has become even more popular. And then the middle section on the right is our urban hearth that is in the new expansion. And particularly in some of those really cold winter months, I think Columbus had one of the most prolific snow seasons that we've had in many years. And so people were out enjoying that, having a cup of coffee and sitting around it, enjoying their takeout, or just having a conversation with friends. So you don't see the seating there in this particular shot, but there are nice Adirondack chairs all around that, that urban hearth that we turned on every night and could provide light and warmth to anyone nearby. Go ahead and jump to the next slide. just continuing this theme. So the top left is Umbrella Alley. That is also one of the most popular Instagram sections of the property that really came to life in 2020. Below that are some rainbow ribbon tape streamers that we put up in June, really around the time of Pride, but also to just bring a happy, colorful experience to the fashion district of Easton. And it was eye-catching. It was really pretty. We kept it up through October, right up until we put up holiday decor, actually. And we're going to bring it back in 2021. The bikes there, that is an installation that Cobalt, a local company, created for us. They actually created the Umbrella Alley too. And that is up in our new expansion. It was just a smile and a laugh, with Pelotonia being such a huge partner and a major force in the community. We felt that it sort of gave a nod to biking as well. And, that has been very well received. These two phone booths, I actually saw a picture of a phone booth in England decorated, I think it was from 19, and said, how can we do this at Easton? We have these English looking phone booths here as well. And so this is a particular location right outside of Anthropology, but we've put in a new one up in the town square, so just across the street from the Cheesecake Factory as well. And this we update seasonally and add new photos or new flowers or colorations that are seasonally appropriate. But you'd be shocked again to look at Instagram and see how many people are enjoying that as a photo op, a selfie op, putting it on their own blogs and feeds. And we love that Easton can be a part of that. Go ahead and pop to the next slide. Inspired art. So Easton opened in 1999, and there have been murals here from the beginning. I would say they were, a little more corporate art versus actual artistic installations. But with our new expansion, it was really a strategic imperative that we include public art and really work with artists locally to do that. And there's just a few examples on this slide, but you see the bikes again, because that really is a work of art. The middle panel on the left-hand side, that is a beautiful mural that sits outside of Crimson. So their location at Easton is called Crimson, not Crimson Cup. It's the next generation of their concept. And we worked collaboratively with them, as well as with two local artists. One, Derek Hickman, who is a visual artist who creates pieces from words. And the other artist was Barbara Fant, who is a local poet laureate. And she wrote an ode to coffee, and then Derek painted it. So if you haven't seen it, it's really beautiful and worth the trip. The lower left is a piece by Clint Davidson. You may have seen some of Clint's work in Franklinton. So when you drive into Franklinton, those signs were created by Clint. And then to the right is a piece that I'm particularly proud of. It's a work of Wally Neil, who was one of the the founding fathers of the Black arts community in Columbus. He was a mentor to many and sadly died this summer. A lot of Wally's pieces are still visible on the south side, on the east side of Columbus. But this particular piece had been on a building that was torn down. And we worked with his widow, Denise Neil, to select a piece that would appropriately honor his legacy, as well as be a new, very eye-catching, visually engaging piece of art at Easton. So that piece on the right is 50 feet tall. It sits on the side of the Worth Avenue garage, which is the Macy's garage to some. So it runs the full height. And we call her the African Moon Daughter. She's a visual, beautifully hopeful vision of African-American culture, and has really inspired a lot of unique conversations, and helped educate the community about Wally and his contributions. And we probably have a dozen more murals I could talk about, but just wanted to show that example of, public art being a piece of Easton forever, starting to get a heightened presence even pre-COVID, and then with COVID, knowing, that this was going to be a game changer for us in terms of inviting people to the center to really be able to enjoy this art. I'll go ahead and have Marla click. Messages of unity and inclusion. So with the murder of George Floyd that I mentioned, and the obviously still going on, the conversation with his killer's trial happening right now, the protests that came out of that time, Pride being a big moment in the summer. We really felt that across many different aspects, Easton needed to have a position on this. Easton's always been an incredibly inclusive environment. We've welcomed guests from every walk of life, background, ethnicity since day one. But again, putting a stake in the ground at this, really critical time. We were a signatory to the Declaration of Racism as a public health crisis. We put out this message that, we have been part, inclusion and unity have been part of who we are for 20 years, but that we needed to do better to stand up against racism, violence, ignorance, and hatred, because standing together, we know we are stronger. With the recent Asian hate uptick, again, these messages are so relevant. And it's sad, in a time of a pandemic when we should be coming together as a community and helping each other, there has been divisiveness. And, what we hope from these type of messages being at a place like Easton, which in, normal times we're welcoming 30 million people to our property, that we can start to just maybe have people think about things differently, maybe have a conversation that they hadn't had. We know we're not going to be, the solvers of, racism, but can we be part of it? Can we be part of the conversation? Can our storytelling help to spark conversations and maybe educate? Go ahead and have you flip, Marla. These messages, continued. So, with the pandemic, we did have some casualties from our tenant family, and sadly Bon V was one of them. A very beloved restaurant that opened with the fashion district in 2021, and actually was the only Bon V in the country. So part of the Brio Bravo group, when that organization was sold a couple of times, the new owners did not elect to continue with the Bon V concept, but that is a very focal point on property. And so we wanted to create something beautiful there. And with the racial equity conversation coming to the forefront, we felt that this could also be a location where we would have important messages. So 5 local female artists who are pictured on the top left were chosen to paint these beautiful murals. They came up with this concept themselves collaboratively. They really felt that they wanted both Black and white voices from the artistic standpoint to uplift powerful Black voices in the art. And so they chose some really potent quotes from Nelson Mandela, from Maya Angelou, and Toni Morrison, and those are depicted here. There's also ribbon tape coming off of the roof, almost like sunbeams, bringing hope and joy. And then this area became our Unity Pavilion, where we put seating and offered guests a place to rest, to convene, to take a moment out of their day just to soak in this beauty. And they're just really so beautiful. We know even with an evolution to this area in 2021. We want to preserve these murals, just like the upper right shows murals preserved from the protests downtown. These were on High Street. These were in the Short North. They were on State Street. And the GCAC group that created this Art Unites Columbus movement had an idea to bring the murals outside of those locations to all quadrants of Columbus. And we were honored to be one of those areas that we featured these murals just up until about 2 weeks ago. So from October through mid-March, our guests could walk by and view these murals, read the story of when and why they were created. And again, spark a conversation, perhaps be educated, to think about things, maybe differently. And then the center are some cubes that we did inside the station building. There were 4 of them. It was a partnership with Breathe, again, the organization we started working with last summer. These were launched for Black History Month, but stayed up the entire month of March as well. So through yesterday, to honor Women's History Month, featuring strong Black female leaders in the market. These cubes were painted by Black female artists. And that is Mamie Moore in the center. She was one of the founders of the Columbus NAACP. So these murals could really, again, spark conversation, educate, and create an environment of inclusiveness. I'll go ahead and have you keep going, Marla. Powerful partnerships, again, something so important to Easton from day one. We really saw starting to heighten pre-COVID, and then with COVID really explode. So COSI being a partner that we did an incredible exhibit with in 19, we were able to bring their COSI van here and sell science kits during the pandemic. CCAD, of course, a strong partner for many, many years. They were unable to have their fashion show last year, but we know we are going to host as a viewing site the 2021 fashion show. King Arts has commandeered the windows, so the lower right, the windows of Forever 21. So another casualty of the pandemic. Simon bought that brand and chose to close all the stores that weren't in Simon malls. So we had this huge amount of frontage. King Arts was one of our Change for Charity partners from 2020. And with the pandemic, there wasn't a ton that we could activate together, but this provided them an outlet to really be able to showcase their mission, their work. The display case on the lower right is actually like an exhibit where they've been able to showcase actual pieces of art. And then they've used the interior of the store to film a ton of content over the last 6 months. The lower left is the crew. We did a viewing party with them at our drive-in movie setup, and just really see that in order to be the best we can be, we need to partner with the community overall. I'll have you keep going, Marla, because I know we need to be wrapping up here for Q&A. Giving back, something hugely important to Easton. I mentioned that our meters are the vehicle for that, where we collect the monies from those parking fees and tickets to fuel the work and the community, to give back direct dollars, as well as to be a site to facilitate events and support for organizations. With the shutdown, obviously our meters weren't up and running, and that was really hard to have the coffers dry. We had banked some money at the Columbus Foundation, where our community foundation fund is held. And so what we were able to do during really the height of the surge was feed the front line. We worked with 5 different restaurants at Easton to deliver nearly 4,000 meals to hospital and healthcare workers, during a time where things look pretty darn bleak. The lower right showcases the work we did at our drive-in in the fall. So instead of having movies and building on that concept that a lot of folks were asking us to house events for them, we knew that there were many, many nonprofits that were not going to be able to have their normal annual fundraisers. And so we brought our community drive-in back. We called it the Easton Community Drive-In this time. For a 2-week period, we hosted 8 different events. In between some of those where we had an open date, we did show some movies. And those groups were able to, in some cases, raise more money than they would have doing an in-person kind of traditional ballroom type of event. So in 2021, we're really pleased to be bringing that back in mid-May. CCAD is actually kicking it off on the 14th of May, as I mentioned, with their senior fashion show being screened. And we have 9 or 10 other groups that are going to have events over the course of those next 2 weeks. Go ahead and click. Leveraging unique tenant experiences. I mean, some of this is self-evident, but I will tell you some behind the scenes. Louis Vuitton, Tiffany, and RH, the rooftop at a restaurant at the gallery at Easton Town Center, they had their best years ever. So RH had just opened in this new format in December, but Restoration Hardware was one of the, the Easton originals. So we were really pleased to be able to see not only was Easton working hard to deliver experience, but so were our tenant partners. And, I'll click through these standouts, but this also had sales attached to it too. Their top years in the history of their tenure at Easton, which is pretty incredible. I'll have you just click through there, Marla. Having Crimson open their new concept, 40 Deuce, you can see Ivan Kane below on the lower left. Our Riveter in our shop lab space. Lemon Shark, which just opened at Easton just a month ago. Pins, that also just opened. Looking at these groups and seeing what experience they're delivering and how they are creating an environment that is unique, it's creative, it's innovative, and it's giving them more loyalty as a result. The last slide is just a few more of the brands that are doing a really good job with that. Legoland Discovery Center, American Girl, Shake Shack, all of our brands. I mean, I could talk about all 250 of them probably in terms of the good work that they're doing, but we're really constantly sharing their messages, supporting their mission, giving them support, whether it's for events, through marketing, digital assets, running their messages on our digital screens across the property, you name it, all of those things. And then I think the last slide just sums up. We were so honored to be named a 2020 Top Comeback Experience Center by Change Store Age magazine, which is one of the premier publications dedicated to specialty and fashion retail. I will tell you, in 2019, we were named the #1 experience center in America. And obviously that was really hard for them to do a similar type of award in 2020. So instead they shifted to have it be a comeback experience center, really focused on safety and how you came back, bringing guests to your property in a manner that was commensurate with the pandemic, but also could create a positive environment. So that was really gratifying. Not that we do things to get awards, but it is always nice when that's a part of it too. So I think that's my last slide, and I'm happy to take questions, answer questions, have an open conversation, whatever y'all are up for.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that, Jen. I'm going to get us started with a question or two, and then I would love for folks to drop some stuff into the Q&A function or the chat to sort of fill this out. I was going to ask which of your tenant designs shifted the most in innovative ways in this time? But maybe you answered that. Maybe there's something that Louis Vuitton and Tiffany and RH did that got them to these top years. So can you talk a little bit about what you saw your tenants doing in shifting for the pandemic that really helped them sort of stand out?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, being so consistent in meeting the customer where they are, providing them with one-on-one attention if they were in the store. So limiting the number of customers in at one time. I mean, at one point, Louis Vuitton was only doing one-on-one. So there would only be 2 customers at a time that could even be in the store because they knew they couldn't deliver the appropriate experience without that. Jewelry kind of taking off as a category. Tiffany and the Diamond Seller and all our jewelry brands really realizing that and saying, okay, how are we going to kind of pivot in order to focus on what was the biggest want or need? And it really, in the fine jewelry, became about engagement rings. Like we're going to have a lot of pandemic babies. There were a lot of pandemic engagements. I mean, you maybe either realized you were good together or you weren't. And if you were going to be good together, you were maybe going to take it to the next level. So we really heard from those brands that the shopping for an engagement ring became almost sacred because it was such an important next step for those couples. With RH, I mean, home became our sanctuary. And people wanting to improve their homes, to remodel, to replace, they really saw that as a huge opportunity for them, again, to safely remind that they offer free design services, that they could work with one of their interior design specialists from soup to nuts across every room in their home without ever leaving their home, if that was their want. And then, of course, with their restaurant, which is like such a gem for the community, they were hitting sales higher than Chicago pre-pandemic. They waited a while to reopen because they really wanted to be sure to be able to do that safe. But from the moment they reopened, they had strict mask protocols. You had to have it on if you weren't at your table. Again, this was before there was a state mandate. They were sanitizing at every table. They had stations throughout their entire store. And so folks felt comfortable not only going to shop there, but then to the restaurant to enjoy a meal. And, I think from a design standpoint, realizing how important the outdoor spaces are, that a patio can really be a game changer in a time where people aren't comfortable being inside. So we allowed for those patio expansions. Some of those brands are coming back and adding patios. Sono Wood Fired is a brand that's going to open here in another month or so. I think 3 times they've expanded the footprint of their patio. Lemon Shark that just opened, the same thing, really realizing that, we're in Columbus, Ohio, but patios can operate pretty much 10 or 11 months of the year, with the proper heaters and comfort elements. So, that is a really, big shift, I would say, in design.
Yeah, I love it. Well, let's talk about experience. And I'm noticing all the thinking at Easton around activations and around sparking joy and the public art. And I'm
Yeah.
wondering if we could get a peek inside how you strategize around that, and where you see it impacting like the bottom line, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, the strategy is really embedded in all we do and think about today, whether that's development, marketing, bringing on new tenants. So when Slurping Turtle opened, we immediately offered them the opportunity to work with a local artist to create a mural on the exterior of their space. And I have to give credit where credit is due. We have an incredible partnership with Adam Brulette and his team. He is so connected to the artists in this community and is such a trusted advisor to us. We have worked with him on numerous projects, and I think in every case he has connected us to the right folks at the right time to do the right piece. I would say the African Moon Daughter is probably the one that's nearest and dearest to my heart. Again, because of Wally Neil's impact on this community, and then the tender and amazing relationship I've now forged with his widow, who was such a part of this from every step of the way. And then the team that recreated that, some of which were Wally's mentees, and also mentoring other young artists. It was incredible to see it come together. And we will continue doing artistic collaborations forevermore. I mean, I'm looking around at some of the originals from the mural installations at Easton, and I think, most of them need redone. And so it'll be great to see how that happens. Some may happen by tenants wanting to do it. Some may happen from groups asking if they can do it. Some may happen because we bring in an artist to do it. It's kind of been all different arrangements, depending on the scenario.
Fantastic. Well, let's ask Chuck's question then. What do you think that Easton is going to be hanging on to out of this? What was accelerated? And where do you think you're going to land in a year or so?
Yeah, I mean, I think we will continue to be a venue for nonprofit events in whatever form that takes. We didn't expect to create a parking lot into an event venue, but because it was so successful and needed, we can see that even into fall, continuing, certainly bringing it back in spring 2021. We couldn't have known we would do a year ago, but I'm very gratified that we're able to make that work. Events and really those layers of activation, we never really got to do that up in our new expansion at the yard where there's a built-in stage. I mean, I think you can look for, wine and paint events there. I think you could look for poetry readings, regular acoustic concerts, live music just coming back in so many different aspects. If you've ever been to Nashville and seen those trucks that drive around with bands on them, it can go a little cheesy, but wouldn't that be cool if there was a mobile concert going through the whole property? We're looking at that for this summer, and then maybe some surprise kind of spectacular ideas that, again, maybe wouldn't have happened if we hadn't just been through this last year.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for all the insight and for the work today. Before we step away, I'm going to share just a couple announcements. If this talk resonated with you and you want to learn more about how you can be one of the leaders who will shape the future of retail, check out CC80's Master of Professional Studies in Retail Design. This new and first of its kind program will be launching for our first class to enroll of January of 2022. And it was shaped by leaders like Jen, who are part of the advisory board for it. If you enjoyed today's talk, you can check out CC80 Knows Retail website to learn about the other upcoming talks happening now through June. We're looking forward to welcoming other experts like Ed Hoffman, an Innovation Retail Executive, and Tom Ramsey of Bath & Body Works. If you enjoyed today's lecture and want to share it with a friend who wasn't able to attend, we'll have a recording available after April 12th on that MPS Retail website. You can follow us, of course, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And thank you so much to Jen and to all of you for being here with us today. Have a fabulous rest of your day. Thank you. Bye, everybody.